This is our kickoff event for the Marin storytelling series of this season. We're really excited to be bringing it back and so happy to be having Jen as our first guest. And the storytelling series is where we invite community members with lived experience to tell their story in an effort to bust stigma and build community. So we're coming together to share our stories in hopes that it helps other people share their stories and feel comfortable, but also getting to know each other and just building that community together. And I love this quote here from Glenn Close. It's that what mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversation. And I think that's what we're doing here, is bringing some sunlight, some candor, and getting rid of that shame. So thank you for joining us.
David Ginsburg.
And during this story, hi.
Just say hi back. Okay, Jen.
Hi.
So during these storytelling events, we want to make sure that we're creating these environments of care by showing up with compassion, non-judgment, respect, curiosity, and support. And so hopefully you can help us by holding these values close to your heart while you're listening to these stories. And just a quick reminder to just always be gentle with yourself. You know yourself more than anyone else. So if you at any time are feeling overwhelmed or just need to take a break, feel free to turn off your camera, walk out of the room, grab some water. And to remember that you are not alone, and you're going to be hearing this as kind of a theme of Jen's story today. So just remembering that we're all here together, you're not alone, whatever you're going through. And with that, I'm here to introduce Jen Carter. And sorry. Pull up my notes here. Jen is a certified peer support specialist and an advocate for mental health in Marin. She provides support to others who have experienced mental health challenges, and was also a participant in our spring 2020 workshop series, building a community of peers who are now trained in being able to tell their stories as a form of advocacy and healing. And Jen's story today will discuss themes of parenthood, postpartum depression, psychosis, and bipolar disorder.
Am I supposed to?
And here we go. As
Okay.
Jen tells the story. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment so everyone can see Jen.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I see many people that I care very much about here today. So I want to start by saying, and I'm going to put you in gallery view because I don't like looking at my face that much, that I don't tell my story so that I can talk about myself, or I would get bored with my story if it was just for that. I tell my story so that I can hopefully give some people some hope and also express that people are not alone. I think "you are not alone" is an incredible sentence, and it's true. A lot of us deal with mental health challenges, and a lot of people are in the shadows and not talking about it. But for those of us that are talking about it, I think we allow a space for people that can, or people that can't, and maybe they can in the future. So I'm going to start. It's called "You Are Not Alone," but I'm going to start by saying crazy, sick in the head, insane, unstable, disturbed, nuts, psycho, why can't you be normal? I'm with you because I feel sorry for you. You have a screw loose, or weird. I've heard them all. Instead, what we should say is it's okay not to be okay. There is hope even when your brain tells you there isn't. I know that to you, it feels like there's no hope left. Let us hold the hope for you. Your illness is not your identity. Your chemistry is not your character, and you are not broken. So hello, my name is Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm glad that you're here. And I hope that at the end of this, you'll feel like you're not alone, because when we realize we're not alone, we feel seen, less lonely, and less ashamed. Today, people are talking about mental health more than ever before. This presents us with a great opportunity to incorporate it into our conversations. I believe that in doing so, it'll help normalize it and provide a space for people to talk about their mental health struggles. And I'm here to speak for those that feel like they can't speak for themselves, and I hope it will give others a feeling of hope. So I found this poem, and I'm going to read it to you. It's called You Are Not Alone by Fatina Amalia. You are not alone. One of the most powerful words in the English language are you are not alone. This is for those who feel forgotten, to the boy in the classroom trying to hide his wrists from his teachers, to the girl hiding in the bathroom floor because she can't stop from crying, to the woman who can't grip anything because her fingernails are chewed to the point of bleeding, to the man who wishes that for just one moment he could genuinely cry or smile or feel anything, to the kids who stay up at night because they can't figure out why they're not like everyone else, and to those who feel like they're slowly drowning because they're too busy hiding their secret part of them from the world. I see you and you are not alone. I know that these words won't make everything all right or stop the voices in the back of your mind telling you that it's your fault. I know that these words are not a cure or going to change the world, but you need to know that you are not alone. You are special because you are not like them. You are a superhero, a warrior. You belong to a select group of individuals who are forced to hide their secret identity behind a mask, and that is nothing to be ashamed of. Many may never understand the kind of superpower it takes for some people just to get out of bed in the morning, or the daily struggle that it takes to simply function. And that's okay, because not everyone can be a superhero. Not everyone is meant to understand what that means. But what it means to me is that you are beautiful and you are worth it. You're stronger than you think you are, stronger than you may know. Remember, when you are told that everyone struggles or that you should just get over it, that just because they don't know the right words, it doesn't mean that you are all alone. It may not get easier, but I promise that it gets better. So keep putting on your cape every morning and saving your world one heroic act at a time. Don't ever let someone make you feel like you have to force yourself to get out of bed or take a shower or eat, because for some, there's no such thing as a simple task. And when you are at your lowest, remember you are not alone. So a couple of times I helped facilitate a NAMI family support group. And in one of the groups, a couple came in whose son was in a psychiatric hospital for the first time, and they seemed really broken and confused. And what I witnessed was the other families surrounding them with support, understanding, and compassion. The couple became the focus of the evening, and by the end, I could see the light coming back into their eyes. And to me, this is what not feeling alone looks like, feeling seen. I tell my recovery story regularly at crisis intervention trainings for law enforcement in Marin. And when I tell my story there, I start out by telling them how perfect my childhood was, how normal I was, how much I was like them before I went crazy. I realize that I'm trying to make myself sound relatable, let them know that I'm just like them. I do that with the assumption that they do not have an understanding of what a person with a mental health diagnosis looks like. And I won't be doing that today. Today, I'm telling my story without any filters. I walk around most of the time, assuming most people don't understand what it's like to have a mental health diagnosis. I spent a large part of my life pretending, lying, feeling alone, twisting myself into a pretzel in order to be what I believe people wanted me to be. Having a mental illness has caused me to lose jobs, lose friends, lose relationships, go broke, become incarcerated, and become homeless. My story starts when I was young. I grew up in Mill Valley, where being perfect and beautiful and rich felt like the standard, something I could never live up to. I was an insecure teenager, and I felt lonely most of the time. After I graduated from high school, I went to college in Marin and then to San Francisco State. When I was 23, I moved to Hawaii, and I got married at 25, and a year later had my beautiful daughter, Sierra. After I had my daughter, I suffered from postpartum depression and ultimately postpartum psychosis. I remember being pregnant and watching Oprah cover stories of women who had killed their babies. She showed sensationalized postpartum depression and told the world that people with mental illnesses are dangerous. The stories were terrifying, and when I started to feel unsteady, these stories came back to me, and I became convinced that I was a danger to my child. I started to hate myself and become numb. I felt frozen with terror, and I didn't know what was happening to me. I was hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital for the first time on Oahu. And after I recovered from postpartum depression, I felt embarrassed and ashamed. I had my own internalized stigma about mental illness. I didn't talk about it. I tucked it away. However, my family was extremely supportive, and my sister Rachel came to stay with me in Hawaii for the summer. She was really helpful. She was amazing. I healed and fell madly in love with my daughter, Sierra. I went a few years before having another mental health crisis, but when my daughter was 3, I had another break, and again, I was put in a psychiatric hospital where I was finally diagnosed with bipolar disorder. When Sierra was 9 months, I left my husband and became a single mom. I loved my new life. I met a lovely man, and my daughter was smart and beautiful and sweet and my favorite person in the whole world. She still is. 3 years later, I had my third crisis where and there was very little mental health services in the small town I lived in Hawaii. There was little education, and I never took the time to learn about my illness. In '98, I moved to Vail, Colorado, and I got married and lived a very full life with snowboarding, friends, pets, children, many children around me. I worked as a hairstylist and then as a concierge at really high-end hotels. 5-star hotels are a difficult place for someone like me. I played the role as the fancy concierge perfectly, and I hid my secret successfully for a very long time. I was hospitalized 3 more times over a period of 10 years. I became a pro at predicting when I was going to lose touch with reality. I would check myself into a hospital, tell them that I wanted to die, the only way to get in. And then at the hospital, I would lose touch with reality, be put on medication, and I'd recover. I had no support, no therapy, no psychiatrist, only a medical doctor that would prescribe my meds. We never spoke of my mental illness, and my husband told me that if I went to a support group, he would be embarrassed, but he didn't want anyone to know that his wife was quote unquote crazy. My husband was emotionally abusive and in the end became physically abusive, so I left him in 2016 and then I moved back here to Marin. When I first moved back, I rented a room from my mom's friend, and I knew I needed to find myself a therapist and a psychiatrist, so I got myself set up with both. A few weeks later, I started to recognize familiar warning signs and knew that I was headed for another break. I hoped that things would go the way they had in the past. I went to the hospital and was sent to the crisis unit. The crisis unit referred me to Casa Renee, a crisis residential treatment center in Kentfield. At Casa Renee, I was too sick, so they sent me back to the crisis unit, and somehow the people there decided that I should go home. So they put me in a taxi and sent me away. At that point, I was completely out of touch with reality. In the middle of the night, I woke up to Pat, my mom's friend, yelling, "Jennifer, knock it off." I looked down as I was holding a wooden shelf that I was about to throw across the room. I have no memory of it, but apparently I woke up in the middle of the night and started throwing things. Pat became understandably scared, so she called 911 with the hopes of getting me into a psychiatric hospital. The police came and put me in handcuffs and into the police car, and I felt a sense of relief because it felt like finally someone was taking control of an uncontrollable situation. I'd been trying to get help, going back to the hospital over and over again with no success. The police took me to the crisis unit where a woman was standing outside, and when we tried to go in, the woman said that I could not come in because I had already been there that day. The police took me to jail because they had nowhere else to take me, and I was originally charged with assault with a deadly weapon. That would have meant prison time. It was reduced to elder abuse. I was in jail for 2 months with no medication for the first month. In my cell, I had a complete and total breakdown with no concept of reality, the worst one I've ever had. I thought that I had died. I did not know where I was. They finally medicated me and I came back to reality. In jail, my public defender told me about a county full service team called STAR, and that stands for Supervised Treatment After Release. She said that they would provide support and could help me get housing. She told me we could fight the charges and I would probably win, but explained that if I didn't plead guilty, I would not qualify for STAR. So I pled guilty. When I was released from jail, my probation officer picked me up and took me to Casa Renee, this crisis residential in Kentfield again. From there, I started my participation in STAR. At our first meeting, I sat at a table across from the entire team. The team consisted of a case manager, a psychiatrist, a therapist, a probation officer, a job placement specialist, a sheriff, a peer support specialist, a role in which I would discover later. They asked me how they could support me. They told me that if I ever need anything, that I could reach out to any one of them. While I participated in the STAR program, I began to thrive. I would go to the court every week where I would meet with the judge who would ask how we were doing, and I sought a support and not punitive. I attended support groups with my fellow participants. I met with case managers and my psychiatrist on a regular basis, and they paid my rent for 6 months until I got a job. I was overwhelmed with how much support I was receiving. I met people that struggled with the same mental health challenges that I'd had most of my life for the very first time. I bonded with my peers. We would go to the movies, the coffee, to the beach. We would openly discuss our mental health experiences. We would laugh at ourselves and compare our symptoms. When we were in psychosis, we had similar delusions, sometimes the exact same. We called it our Jesus phase when we thought we were Jesus. It was the first time I'd ever met people who had the same struggles as me. It was kind of a support and camaraderie that I'd never felt before. I no longer felt alone in the world, like the only person who had mental health challenges. I met lifelong friends. On my graduation from STAR, my family, still my biggest support came to WAT. I told the STAR team and my peers that they had saved my life. And this is what I believe support looks like. It's wraparound support done in a collaborative way that treats people with kindness and respect while preserving their dignity. After my graduation from STAR, we celebrated with a lunch where my case manager and the team peer support specialist told me about peer education. They told me I would learn how to support others who had mental health challenges and that I had been doing that with the STAR participants all along. I started my training to become a peer support specialist at the Enterprise Resource Center, Mental Health Drop-In Center. And the first day, we read a short story called The Essence of Peer Support. I'm going to read that to you. The Essence of Peer Support. A person falls into a hole so deep they can't get out. A doctor walks by and the person calls for help. The doctor writes a prescription, tosses it into the hole, and walks on. A priest walks by and the person calls out again. The priest writes a prayer, tosses it into the hole, and walks on. Finally, a peer support specialist walks by and again the person asks for help. To their surprise, the peer jumps in with them. Why did you do that? The person asks. Now we're both in the hole. Yes, the peer responds, but I've been in this hole before and I know the way out. I couldn't believe that something like this existed. I learned alongside my peers all about mental health disorders and how to support others in their recovery, to stop being the designated patient and start connecting with others with the same struggles. I've found that helping others is helpful for other people in their recovery as well as my own. I started working as a volunteer at the Enterprise Resource Center and I've never left. I found community in my peers and I feel a sense of inclusion. Today, my life is back on track. I see my psychiatrist regularly and take my medication religiously. I live in my own beautiful loft apartment in downtown San Rafael, and I work full-time as the operations manager at the Enterprise Resource Center. This place the Enterprise Resource Center is an amazing place and I'm proud to be part of it. We offer peer support, support groups, activities, peer education, and a place where people can feel comfortable and get support where there's no judgment. I refer to it as a soft place to land. Lately, I've said that I'm happy I have a mental illness because without it, I would not have met the amazing people in my life and have the richest life that I live today. I'm not so sure I'm happy I have a mental illness, but I know that my life can get messy and ugly and embarrassing at times, and I still find myself in crisis at times, but today I feel seen and not at all alone. Let's see, and then I'd like to share this video with you. It's from the Broadway musical and film, Dear Evan Hansen. Please enjoy.
Here we go. Well, you can all see the video right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt like you could disappear?
Like you could fall and no one would hear. Well, let that lonely feeling wash away.
Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay.
'Cause when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand.
And oh, someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up when you rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. 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 The morning is breaking and all is morning. All is morning. Filling up the empty. Suddenly I see that all is new. All is new. You were not alone. You were not alone. You were not alone. You were not alone. Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. Even when the dark comes crashing through, you will be found. Someone to carry you. You will be found. You will be found.
All right. The tricky part about getting out of the video. It's not gonna let me do it. Just gonna go like this. There we go. Sweet. We made it.
Okay, and then I was just going to say a couple things.
Yeah.
So just, I want to end with, I hope that this story will give people hope and help them see that recovery is possible. I can say that today I have been found and that I am no longer alone. And thank you so much for coming and listening to my recovery story.
Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing your story. It was really, really beautiful.
Are we allowed to just say thank you, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
go
can
for it.
shout it.
We're gonna do a little Q&A in a second.
Oh,
but-
okay, then
Oh,
we're good.
okay.
I just thought it was about to end.
Oh no,
I mean-
we've got a little bit
Hi,
more.
sweetie.
So Jen and I thought it would be a great idea to just share some of our community resources and some of the resources that she really holds close to her heart. to remind you all that you're not alone and we are a big community and there are lots of places that we can go to get the support. One of those happens to be the ERC, run by MHA Marin. And so I don't know, Jen, if you wanted to give a little overview of the services.
Yeah, so we are a nonprofit called Mental Health Advocates with Marin. We are peer run from our board members to our volunteers. We provide support to folks without a referral. So people can just come in, we're a drop-in center. And we have depression group, bipolar group, all sorts of different groups to support people. We just started a trauma processing group. We also have mental health in the Black community. We have a Vietnamese group and a couple Spanish groups as well. We also provide peer education. So we teach people. I'm actually the teacher now, so that's kind of interesting. It's come full circle. So we teach people how to become peer support specialists and to possibly volunteer and sometimes even work here. So it's a safe space. I think, we do TED Talks too. We have movies all day on the weekends so people can come in and just kind of feel like they're in a safe space and they can watch movies. So we also have a warm line. So we do a lot. We have a great website. It's mhamarin.org if you want to learn more.
Yeah. It's so wonderful to have those drop-in services and have a physical space to go to.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. We also wanted to share a little bit about the SAFE team. It's rather new in Marin County. It's just kind of jumping off, but they're non-police, but you access them through calling the police department, and they respond to mental health crisis calls. So you've probably seen them throughout Marin. They're usually in like a blue or an aqua shirt. They have an ambulance with them. And Jen, I know you know a little bit more details about what they can do and
well, you pretty much covered it. I mean, they can't put somebody on a 5150, so they're not going to take someone to the hospital. It's a little less scary for somebody, because oftentimes when mobile crisis comes out, they're like, you're trying to lock me away, or but that's not what the SAFE team does. They go out and they just provide one-on-one support in the field to somebody that needs help. They do wellness checks, but it's a great program. It's brand new. It's just in San Rafael right now, but they're hoping to expand it.
Yeah, thank you. And they do actually have a web page on the police department's page. So it's srpd.org/safe, and they have more information there. And then we both thought we'd just share that NAMI Marin actually offers like family support groups. So we know that mental illness and mental health affect everybody in the family, not just the people going through it. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about the family support groups that NAMI Marin offers. We have 5 support groups throughout the county. 2 of those are in Spanish. 1 is out in West Marin and happens to be hybrid, so you can access it from anywhere because we host it on Zoom as well. But those are places where, again, you can just drop in. And if you are someone with a loved one who's experiencing mental illness, you can come to get support, share resources, talk about your experience, and just listen to others who have had the similar experiences. So I wanted to make sure that you knew about these 3 resources. And with that, we do have some time for a little Q&A and a little H&A, which is honoring and acknowledging. We'll start with some Q&A. And we thought we'd just do, if you can raise your hand in your video, or if you know how to use the raise hand feature, we could just do questions that way.